Welcome back to my channel. It's Naima Healer here. So first off, I wanted to say we're one subscriber away from 100 subscribers. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Continue to like, comment, and share. And I will still be doing my giveaway. So as of now, I only have two of the minor arcana sets to go over. We have the knives and we have the coins left, all right? So we're gonna jump into the knives, and then the coins, I'm gonna tell you how to enter the giveaway. All right, so I'm excited, okay? So let's get into the knives. So if you recall, the knives are like our thoughts and our beliefs, all right? So it's all mental. So let's begin. We have the Ace of Knives here, okay? So we see this dagger is coming up into the sky. We see that the dagger has been wrapped with chicken legs and the eyes of an owl. So what really resonates with me are those owl eyes, okay? So when I see that, I think about moving with clarity, being really decisive, being really sure, just being really clear and seeing through the reality of the situation, or even seeing through with your spiritual eyes, okay? So, when we think about this card in the opposite, all right, we think about cloudy judgment or being really indecisive, not really knowing or being sure of what you want. My light's kind of bright, so I'll make sure I kind of zoom in correctly. All right. Then we have the Two of Knives, all right? So we see that the woman's spiritual eyes have been gouged out. So when we run across the two of knives, we see the woman being posed with the two of knives. The two is very important to me because it represents a truce. All right. So it represents renewed action, making a firm decision again. So again, remember the knives are with our mental. So being firm about our decision, really saying what you really mean. All right. And when we think about this in the opposite, we're stuck in the middle. We can't make a decision, or think about those people that play the fence. All right. So remember, if it doesn't represent actual people with those qualities, so think about it, it's all mental. Okay. And this card in the negative can also represent not saying what you really feel, right? I'm okay. Shrug it off, and deep inside, you're tearing up. So exercise that throat chakra and really say what you feel. Next, we have the Three of Knives. And I don't know about you all, but this is one of like the saddest cards in the whole deck. So although we have sad imagery, right? We have the man here. He is sitting under a tree, no leaves. All right, so it represents that lack of. We have the broken bottles. All right, we have a dog actually urinating on his loved one's grave. We see him being pierced with the three knives, and what this represents is actually the worst being over, healing from some emotional trauma. All right. Overcoming some dark or despairing moment in your life. All right. And then when we think of it, the negative, as you can imagine, a lot of emotional trauma here. It can signify like a bad breakup, a bad relationship. It has a lot of negativity associated with it. Okay. Next, we have the Four of Knives. All right. So in the Four of Knives, we see a hunter is resting. All right. And despite what you may think, this is a well-deserved rest, because in actuality, the hunter knows that this well-deserved rest is going to lead to success. All right. So as you can imagine, our meaning that we're going to attach to this is it's time to take a break. You deserve it. You work hard. Rest. All right. So you can gear up to enter into the next level or the next phase. All right. He's peaceful. So it's about like grounding yourself, being back centered, doing those things that you need to do to be centered. If we look at this in the reverse, the complete opposite, this can represent being burnt out. And I resonate with this card because sometimes I do so much, right? And I don't rest. I'm always on the go. So we can see being burnt out. And it can also represent isolation, but not like you are isolating in a positive way, like you are trying to rest, but just isolating from some situation, from a group of people, some sort of exhaustion or some stagnation that's attached to you. Okay, so again, I think about all mental. So what belief is holding you back? What belief is keeping you stagnated? Okay, awesome. We have. Uh-oh. Let's go in order. The Five of Knives. And I thought this was really interesting because the book speaks of holding a coin in under your tongue when you are about to testify in court, okay? And they call it holding a bit. And when we see this card, it signifies vengeance. All right. It signifies vindication, resolving a conflict in your own way, being prepared for battle, because you see she has her five knives, she has her bit, she's ready, and confronting evil. All right, so when I see this, yes, this person is definitely ready for battle. So again, in the negative, this can be represent liars, cheaters, manipulators, and humiliation. All right, so those are the biggest call outs for me. Next, we have the Six of Knives. And I found this story interesting as well because I've heard of John the Conqueror root, but I didn't really know the story. So, John the Conqueror was a prince from Africa. It is said that he escaped slavery and he was able to sail back all the way to Africa and he left his power in a root. Okay, so completely legendary, right? But it's still an awesome testimony. So when I see this card, it's about going with the flow, moving on, moving on, letting that hurt go, letting that pain go, that past go, that trauma go, and moving on with your life. And I see it as moving on in a positive direction. It can also signify travel, right? And then negative, all right? The opposite of going with the flow, being very resistant to change, all right? And remember, I told you those knives are all mental, so it can also represent negative thought patterns, all right? Are really feeling down or sad. All right. So next we have our Seven of Knives. And for any of those ladies that are in a relationship, it should be easy to remember the meaning attached to this card, okay? So with the Seven of Knives, we see this homemaker here, and she's smiling, right? She's smiling, she's preparing a meal for her mate, and inside this spoon are black cock feathers, and they are said to keep your mate faithful. All right, but she has to remove them before he eats them. Her little secret, okay? So when we see a Seven of Knives, all right, it's all about strategic planning. All right, she's thinking about her livelihood. She's thinking about her life with her mate. She's strategically planning to make sure she keeps him, right? So I just think about strategic planning. And then it can also mean a sincere apology. And the way I remember that is just looking in her face. She looks very sincere and genuine. So it can also represent, hey, a sincere apology is coming to you, or maybe it's something that you might even need to do. So negative, all right? The first meaning that I'm going to attach to that is cheaters. Definitely, right? It can also be victimizers and hidden agendas, okay? Because yeah, she's doing that without her husband's knowledge. So I think of cheaters when we look at the relationship aspect. Also think about some hidden agendas under when this card comes up in the reverse. All right. Next we have the Eight of Knives. So in the Eight of Knives, we see this man. He's at a crossroads. Okay, all right. So the crossroads are considered the place where the spiritual and the physical worlds meet. So it's definitely a source of power. So when we see this card, it is very positive to me, and it represents believing in yourself, empowering yourself, and the removal of obstacles. Because now you've empowered yourself, but you've also empowered yourself to see beyond. All right. Paying attention to the signs, the meanings, the warnings. All right. The reality of certain situations. So I really like this card. It's really positive to me. But if it appears in the reverse, we have this feeling of oppression or a large weight on your shoulders. All right. Feeling really isolated, or people, again, with the mind, with just a negative vibe. All right. Those people that could ruin a wet dream, dampen a cloudy, lighthearted room. I'm in a bright, sunny, lighthearted room. Those people that bring the vibe down. All right. Next, we have the Nine of Knives. All right. So, the Nine of Knives is a really interesting story. So let's talk about it for a second, okay? So we see the skull head here. There are nine peaches, and they all have the knives in it. So I know me personally in school, I learned about like the Nazi um, concentration camps in Germany, but it wasn't until I researched the Devil's Punch Bowl that I learned about our own concentration camps right here in our own backyard. So the devil, once slaves were freed, a lot of them went to this place called Natchez. Natchez is in Mississippi, and people didn't know what to do with them, right? The population grew overnight, and they created these concentration camps. So many of the now freed slaves died from diseases, died from starvation, so really slow, agonizing deaths. So the peaches that grew are said to be are said to be I lost the word for it, but the soil has the dead people's bodies, so it is fertilized. That's the word I was looking for. Fertilized with the bodies of these tortured peoples. So a lot of people would not eat the peaches because they felt that it was bad to eat any fruit, especially Native Americans, any fruit that had been grown where such negative things had happened. And this story captured me so much. I actually homeschool my children. Like I create their own curriculum, and I let them watch a 1 hour video that explored that. So anybody that's interested, really look up the Devil's Punch Bowl. Just eye opener. All right. But back to the meaning, okay? So when we see the Nine of Knives, there is actually renewed hope and the end of our suffering, okay? Also, the worst being over. When we look at this in the negative, and yes, to me, this is a really negative card because it has so much emotional, like hurt, pain, torment attached to it. So when we look at this card in the negative, it is anxiety, it's stress, it's nightmares, it's seclusion, it's being in a desperately hopeless situation that there almost seems to be no way out. So again, I attached a more negative meaning behind this card. And lastly, we have the Ten of Knives. So in the Ten of Knives, we have George Webster, and he was a root worker. So he is said to have hexed one of his clients, and the son actually killed him in broad daylight to get revenge. Okay, so when we see this card, it's being saved from our past mistakes, it's things getting better, it's surviving from a disaster. All right, and then when we look at this card in the negative, it is hard times. It can signify like hospice care. Somebody is really coming to the end of their lives. Some sort of a chronic pain, some deep wounds. From maybe some trauma that you've experienced in the past, and it can be betrayal. Think about the story, and really negative thinking. Okay, so remember with those knives, those are going to be your thoughts and your beliefs. Okay, so that is 1 through 10. As usual, homework. I always write a description, a full out description. If you don't believe me, whole full out description, top to bottom, sideways, left, right, and really think about how these cards resonate in your life today, because that's how you attach your own meaning when you do your readings. It helps you work on your intuition, and it just makes the reading so much more helpful. Okay, so thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. I'm getting excited because that means we're getting close to being able to cover some spreads and some readings, and really looking at how these cards work together to give us messages. All right, Naima Healer here, signing off.